There comes a moment in life when everything can shift in a single instant. You may not see it coming, and you may not fully understand why certain things are happening right now. But something is about to change. What you once labeled impossible is moving toward becoming your reality. What you have prayed for in secret is preparing to be revealed in the open. There is a divine appointment set for you, one that can alter the course of your life in a way you will never forget. And the question is whether you will recognize it when it arrives. Stay with me, because what you are about to hear may be the key that unlocks the door you have been waiting to walk through. Do not miss what God is about to do next, because it is closer than you think. Life often unfolds like a book, chapter by chapter, with each page carrying lessons, trials, and victories. Yet there are seasons when the pages seem stuck, when you keep turning and nothing appears to move, and no matter how hard you push, your circumstances refuse to change. This is the place where faith becomes more than a word, not merely the faith that believes God exists, but the faith that trusts His timing, His wisdom, and His methods, even when they do not match your expectations. Scripture reminds us that God's ways are higher than ours, and His thoughts are beyond our comprehension. What many people overlook, however, is that God is the master of sudden, unexpected breakthroughs. Think of Abraham. Year after year he waited, holding on to a promise that seemed to drift farther away with time. Imagine the nights he must have questioned himself, the moments he must have wondered if he heard God clearly, the quiet battles he fought with disappointment. And yet at the moment God ordained, Isaac was born, and everything changed. Think of Joseph, betrayed by his own brothers, thrown into a pit, sold into slavery, and later imprisoned in Egypt for doing what was right. He could have concluded that his life would end in captivity, that his dreams were foolish, that nothing good could come from so much pain. But then, in what felt like an ordinary day, Pharaoh summoned him, and within hours, Joseph went from prison to authority. His life did not change gradually, it changed instantly. This is not only an ancient pattern. God has not changed. The same God who parted the Red Sea, who raised Lazarus from the dead, who turned water into wine, still watches over your life today. The real question is not whether God can surprise you. The question is whether you are prepared to receive what He has prepared. The waiting season can feel like a wilderness. Prayers seem unanswered. Dreams feel distant. Your efforts feel small against the size of what you are asking God to do. But what if the delay is not a denial? What if the delay is preparation? A process can be uncomfortable, but it can also be purposeful. When a seed is planted, it spends time hidden beneath the soil where no one applauds it, no one sees it, and no one can measure its progress. Yet beneath the surface, roots are growing, strength is forming, and the plant is being prepared to sustain what is coming. In the same way, God often works behind the scenes, arranging circumstances, aligning people, shaping your heart, and preparing you for the blessing you are praying for. The delay is not proof that God forgot you. The delay may be proof that He is orchestrating something beyond what you can see. Faith requires trust, especially when the outcome is unclear. The disciples learned this when they were caught in a storm on the Sea of Galilee. Fear tightened around them as waves crashed against their boat and the wind threatened to swallow them. Yet Jesus stood and spoke a word, "Peace, be still." And in an instant the storm stopped. The situation did not improve slowly. It shifted with a single command. This is the nature of God's timing. He steps in at the moment when hope seems thinnest and proves that what is impossible for you is not impossible for Him. But you must understand something else. God's surprises often come in ways you do not expect. When the Israelites stood before the walls of Jericho, God did not give them a strategy that looked impressive to human reasoning. He did not tell them to batter down the gates or outsmart the city with force. He told them to march, and He told them to shout. Their breakthrough came through obedience that looked foolish to the natural mind. Naaman, a commander in the Syrian army, sought healing from leprosy. He likely expected a dramatic moment, a public declaration, a display of power. Instead, the prophet Elisha told him to dip 7 times in the Jordan River. Naaman resisted because it did not fit his idea of how God should work, but when he obeyed, his skin was restored. The method may not always make sense, but the result is undeniable. Many people miss their divine moment because they demand that God move according to their preferences. They want a certain timeline. They want a certain process. They want an answer that feels comfortable and familiar. Yet God often works outside what you can predict. The widow of Zarephath was preparing what she believed would be her last meal when Elijah asked her to share. Everything in her circumstances said no. Fear said, save it. Logic said, protect your own. But her act of faith opened the door to supernatural provision, and her flour and oil did not run dry throughout the famine. God's blessings often require an act of faith, stepping forward when it feels uncomfortable, obeying when it does not make sense, trusting when the outcome is uncertain. Here is what you must hold on to. God's surprises are not random. They are the fulfillment of his promises. Scripture declares that God knows the plans he has for you, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future. His plans are intentional and his timing is perfect. The dreams he planted in your heart were not accidents. Even the setbacks, the disappointments, the detours, and the closed doors are woven into a greater purpose you may not fully see yet. Consider Lazarus. When Jesus heard that his friend was sick, he did not rush to heal him. He delayed. Lazarus died. To everyone watching, it looked like failure. It looked like silence. It looked like abandonment. But the delay was not a denial. It was positioning. When Jesus arrived, he called Lazarus out, the tomb, and revealed power that went beyond healing, power over death itself. The delay made space for greater glory, and this principle applies to your life. What you call delay, God may be using as preparation for a greater breakthrough than you would have asked for if you could see the full picture, the promotion you've been waiting for, the healing you have been praying for, the restoration you have longed for, the financial breakthrough you need. None of it is outside God's plan, but you must be ready for this truth. It often happens when you least expect it. Faith is not controlling the outcome. Faith is trusting God even when you cannot see the full picture. The Israelites had to step into the Jordan before the waters parted. Peter had to step out of the boat before he could walk on water. Obedience often comes before the miracle. And do not miss this. Obedience is not always about grand actions. Often it is about daily faithfulness, about staying consistent in the small things, about doing what is right when no one is watching, about honoring God when your emotions are tired and your mind is full of questions. This is where many people grow weary, because the waiting can feel like nothing is happening. But when God moves, it happens suddenly. The breakthrough you have prayed for can manifest in a single moment. The opportunity you have been waiting for can arrive through one phone call. The healing you have been believing for can happen in an instant. This is why you must remain expectant. Too many people stop right before their breakthrough. They get exhausted in the waiting, discouraged by the silence, and they step back just before God steps in. But Scripture encourages us not to grow weary in doing good, because at the proper time we will reap a harvest if we do not give up. Notice those words, the proper time. God's timing is precise. He knows the exact moment when your breakthrough will have the greatest impact. What looks like delay is often divine accuracy. Imagine if Joseph had surrendered to hopelessness in prison. He would have missed the moment Pharaoh called his name. Imagine if the Israelites had stopped marching around Jericho on the 6th day. They would have never seen the walls fall. Imagine if Peter refused to step out of the boat. He would have missed a moment that redefined his understanding of faith. Your breakthrough may be closer than you think. The doors that seem locked are not as permanent as they look. The opportunities that appear out of reach can move within your grasp faster than you imagine, but you must stay ready. Preparation matters. Just as a farmer prepares soil before planting, you must prepare your heart and mind to receive what God is about to release. Stay faithful in the small things. Maintain gratitude. Continue walking in obedience, even when results are not immediate. And understand this. When God moves, it often defies human logic. Jericho's walls did not fall because of military strategy, but because of obedience. The Red Sea did not part because of human strength, but because of divine intervention. The feeding of the 5,000 did not happen because resources were abundant, but because faith placed what was available into God's hands. In the same way, your breakthrough may come through an unexpected opportunity, a chance encounter, or a situation that looks impossible on to surface. Yet preparation is not only external, it is internal. God is not only interested in changing your circumstances, He is interested in transforming you. The waiting season is often a refining season where God strengthens your faith, shapes your character, and prepares you to sustain the blessing you are asking for. If you receive a blessing before you are ready, it can become a burden. But when God knows you are prepared, He releases it at the perfect time. So what should you do while you wait? Stay faithful. Keep praying, even when it feels like your prayers are falling back to the ground. Keep believing, even when the evidence argues against you. Keep obeying, even when it does not make sense. Faith is not about seeing the outcome. It is about trusting the one who holds the outcome. And when the moment comes, when God steps into your situation and shifts everything, you will look back and realize the waiting was not wasted. When God decides to move, no force in the universe can stop Him. What He has ordained for your life will come to pass, no matter how many obstacles rise in front of you. The enemy may attempt to delay it. Distractions may appear. Circumstances may look unfavorable. But when the appointed time arrives, everything shifts. Just as the seed cannot remain underground forever, your breakthrough cannot be held back indefinitely. The pressure you feel right now can be a sign that something is about to break forth. Consider Daniel. He prayed for understanding, but for 21 days the answer was delayed because of spiritual resistance. When the angel finally arrived, he explained that from the first day Daniel set his heart to seek God, the air was dispatched, but opposition caused delay. That means there are times when your breakthrough has already been released in the heavenly realm and a battle is taking place as it comes into manifestation. This is why you cannot grow weary in prayer. Many people stop praying, stop believing, stop expecting, not realizing their answer is already on the way. And hear this clearly, God's surprises are never ordinary. They are beyond what you could ask, think, or imagine. The miracle at Cana is a perfect picture. The wedding ran out of wine, and Mary told the servants to do whatever Jesus said. They were expecting a solution, but what Jesus instructed seemed unrelated. He told them to fill jars with water. There was no indication of change, no visible evidence that anything would happen. Yet they obeyed, and then transformation came. Water became wine, not just any wine, but the best of the evening. This is how God works. He not only answers, He exceeds. Many times when God is about to shift your life, He will instruct you to do something that appears small, even insignificant. He may ask you to serve when you want to be promoted. He may ask you to give when you feel like you are the one in need. He may ask you to step out when everything in you wants to retreat. The test is in your obedience, because breakthrough often follows an act of faith. When Peter had fished all night and caught nothing, Jesus told him to cast his net on the other side. Logic said it would not work. Experience said it was pointless. But obedience led to overflow. Your next season is connected to your willingness to trust God when you cannot see the outcome. Too many people live by what they see are than by what God has spoken. But faith does not depend on visibility. The Israelites had to walk around Jericho in silence for 6 days before they could shout on the 7th. Imagine the discipline required to march without proof that the walls were weakening. Imagine the temptation to doubt, to question, to wonder if God had truly spoken. Yet on the 7th day, when they obeyed the final instruction, the walls collapsed and victory was secured. The same applies to you. You may be in the marching phase, in the stage where nothing seems to shift. But if God has given you a word, hold on to it. He is not a man that He should lie. His promises are yes and amen. What He spoke will come to pass. The walls will fall. The breakthrough will manifest. The promise will be fulfilled. And do not stop before the final moment. Many people quit on the 6th lap, not realizing they were one step away from victory. God's surprises are often wrapped in challenges. David was anointed king, but before he sat on the throne, he faced Goliath. The giant looked like an obstacle, but it was actually David's doorway to promotion. Without Goliath, David might have remained a shepherd in obscurity. Sometimes the battles you face are not meant to destroy you, they are meant to elevate you. The pressure, the struggle, the opposition are part of the process God uses to prepare you for the next level. Moses faced Pharaoh before leading the Israelites out of Egypt. Esther risked her life before saving her people. Paul endured shipwrecks, imprisonment, and persecution before walking in his greatest impact. The path to purpose is not always smooth, but every trial is temporary. What you are walking in through right now will not last forever. Even if you feel surrounded, God has already prepared a way of escape. He is the God who makes rivers in the desert, who brings water out of a rock, who opens doors no man can shut. Sometimes, however, the greatest obstacle is not the enemy, it is our mindset. The Israelites were delivered from Egypt, yet they still thought like slaves. When they saw giants in the promised land, they believed they were too small to overcome. Their mindset kept them wandering for 40 years. This is why God often works on transforming your thinking before he changes your circumstances. If you step into a new season with an old mindset, you can sabotage what God is trying to do. That is why God refines you. He is not only interested in changing what is around you, he is interested in changing what is within you. Many people pray for a new season, but resist the process that prepares them for it. They want promotion, but avoid responsibility. They want financial blessing, but reject stewardship. They want a strong marriage, but refuse to invest. God will not release a blessing you are not prepared to sustain. Sometimes he withholds not to punish you, but to protect you. Premature elevation can lead to downfall. Joseph had to go through the pit, the prison, and the palace because each stage was preparing him for his assignment. So remain faithful where you are. Do not despise small beginnings. Do not overlook daily obedience. God's surprises are not only about external blessings, they are about fulfilling his purpose in you and through you. The disciples thought they were simply following a teacher, but they were being positioned to change the world. Paul thought he was traveling on the road to Damascus, but he was about to encounter Jesus and step into his calling. God is always orchestrating, even in seasons where it feels like nothing is happening. Do not be discouraged. Delay is not denial. Process is not punishment. What looks like an obstacle can be an opportunity. What appears to be a setback can be a setup for something greater. Keep your faith alive. Keep your expectation high. Keep your heart positioned in obedience, because at the appointed time, the shift will come. And when it does, you will look back and see that every moment of waiting, every prayer, every tear, and every test was leading you into divine fulfillment. There is a moment when everything changes, when God steps into your situation and nothing remains the same. Burdens that once felt impossible to carry suddenly lift. Prayers that felt like they were hitting the ceiling are answered with clarity and power. Doors that were tightly shut swing open. Opportunities you thought were beyond you arrive in your hands. But before that moment arrives, there is often a period of waiting, a season when your faith is tested and your endurance is stretched. In that season, many people give up, not realizing how close they are. Yet that same season is where God refines you, strengthens you, and positions you for what is next. Look again at Abraham. God promised descendants as numerous as the stars, yet year after year passed without fulfillment. Natural circumstances made it seem impossible, but God's promise never depended on human limits. At the appointed time, Sarah conceived and Isaac was born. Those years were not wasted, they were preparation, aching Abraham to trust God's timing rather than his own. Waiting is never easy. It requires patience, trust, and perseverance. But waiting is not inactivity, it is preparation. When Joseph was in prison, it may have seemed like nothing was happening, but God was preparing him for the moment he would interpret Pharaoh's dream and step into destiny. When David was tending sheep, it may have seemed insignificant, but God was training him to shepherd a people. What you do in the waiting season matters. Your faithfulness, obedience, and attitude during this time shape how you will handle the blessing when it arrives. God's timing is strategic. He knows the exact moment when your breakthrough will have the greatest impact. Sometimes the delay is not only about you, it is about the people you are called to influence. Esther was placed in the palace at a specific time, not for comfort, but to save her people. In the same way, God is aligning the details of your life so that when he moves, it will not only bless you, but fulfill his greater purpose. There are times when God's surprise comes when you least expect it. Peter fished all night with no success, yet everything changed when Jesus told him to cast his net again. The timing did not make sense, but obedience brought overflow. The widow of Zarephath was preparing her last meal when Elijah arrived with a word, and her obedience unlocked provision that sustained her household. These moments teach that God's timing may defy human understanding, but it produces the greatest result. Receiving God's surprise requires faith. Without faith, it is impossible to please God. Faith is believing God is working even when you cannot see it. It is trusting his promises even when circumstances argue against them. Faith is active. It speaks life when everything looks dead. It praises before the breakthrough. It obeys even when the outcome is unclear. Faith must also be joined with expectation. Too often people pray without expecting an answer. They go through the motions while secretly assuming nothing will change. But a double-minded heart cannot live in confident expectation. True faith is confident expectation rooted in the unchanging nature of God. If he has done it before, he can do it again. If he made a way through the sea, he can make a way for you. Nothing is too hard for him. This is why your mindset matters. As a person thinks in the heart, so the person becomes. If you expect defeat, you will live defeated. If you expect delay, you will keep waiting. But if you expect breakthrough, if you wake up believing today could be the day God moves, your faith creates an atmosphere for miracles. Expectation shifts your focus from what you see to what God promised, and it sharpens your ability to recognize the signs that God is moving. Sometimes the first sign of breakthrough is increased opposition. Before the Israelites entered the promised land, they faced giants. Before David stepped into promotion, he confronted Goliath and endured Saul's jealousy. Pressure can increase right before release, but fear is not your portion. God strengthens, helps, and upholds. Another sign is a shift in your spirit, an anticipation you cannot explain. Doors that were closed may begin to crack open. Opportunities that were unreachable may become accessible. Relationships may shift as God removes those not aligned with your destiny and brings connections that will help propel you forward. Pay attention to these changes because they can be indicators that God is aligning things for your next season. As you approach your breakthrough, guard your heart. Doubt and negativity are weapons the enemy uses to weaken expectation. He will remind you of past failures, whisper that nothing will change, insist you are unworthy, and try to convince you that your prayers are unheard. But those are lies. You resist them with the truth of God's word. Declare his promises over your life. Speak life into your situation. Surround yourself with voices that strengthen faith. The atmosphere you create with your words and your mindset can determine whether you step into your breakthrough or remain trapped in the waiting. And remember this, when God surprises you, it is never only for you. It is always tied to purpose. Your breakthrough becomes testimony. Your healing encourages others to believe. Your provision inspires others to trust God as provider. Your restoration proves God can redeem what people thought was finished. Your calling, when you walk in it, becomes a light for others still in darkness. This is why the enemy fights so hard to keep you from stepping into what God ordained. He knows that when you walk in your destiny, you become a threat to what he is trying to do. Yet look at you. You are still standing. You survived what was meant to destroy you. You endured storms that were supposed to break you. And now you're on the edge of something new. So keep believing, keep expecting, keep preparing. What God has planned for you is bigger than your current circumstances and greater than your past. When he moves, it will be undeniable. Doors will open that no one can shut. Favor will come in ways you cannot explain. Transformation will be so complete that people who knew you before will hardly recognize the person you have become. And when that moment arrives, the waiting will make sense. You will understand why certain things were delayed, why certain doors had to close, and why certain people had to leave. You will see how every step was leading you to a moment of divine fulfillment. But even now, as you stand on the edge of what God is about to do, the enemy will try to distract you. His weapon is deception, pushing you to believe nothing is changing, that your prayers are ignored, that your situation is hopeless, that your dreams are too big, that your past is too messy, that your faith is too weak. But those lies collapse in the presence of God's truth, because God's promise still stands. Think of the Israelites at the Red Sea with Pharaoh's army closing in behind them. In the natural, there was no escape. Fear rose, doubt spread. Yet God had a plan no one could see. With a single command, the sea parted and they walked through on dry ground. Notice that the miracle came at what looked like the last possible moment, when their backs were against the wall and human solutions were gone. Often God allows a situation to reach the point where only He can change it, so that when He does, no one can deny His hand was at work. If the sea had parted sooner, they might have credited strategy or strength. But when it opened at the last moment, it could only be God. And this is why the delay in your life may be divine. Because when your breakthrough comes, it will be underneath, Blair, and it will point back to God's glory. Until then, your assignment is to hold on. Hold unswervingly to the hope you profess, because the one who promised is faithful. Faith is not denying reality. Faith is declaring that God's power is greater than reality. It stands firm when everything around you shakes. It speaks promises when there is no proof. And understand this, your waiting is not wasted. Every prayer, every tear, every moment of trusting God is preparing the soil of your heart for a harvest. Like a seed hidden in darkness before it breaks through the soil, your faith is being strengthened in hidden seasons, even when it feels like nothing is happening. Beneath the surface, God is working, aligning people, circumstances, and opportunities you cannot yet see. And when the time is right, the breakthrough will burst forth suddenly. Even the birth of Jesus reminds us of this. The world waited centuries for the promised Messiah. Generation after generation held on to prophecy, wondering when God would fulfill His word. And then, in a humble stable, in an unexpected place, at an unlikely time, the Savior was born. The greatest miracle began quietly, without fanfare, yet it changed humanity forever. In the same way, your breakthrough may not come the way you expect, but it will come, and when it does, it will exceed what you imagined. Be prepared, because as you draw closer to breakthrough, opposition can intensify. Storms often grow louder before they break. Spiritual warfare can increase before major elevation. Doubt may try to grow. Fear may try to rise, obstacles may appear larger, but do not be discouraged. Opposition is often proof that you are close. The enemy would not fight so hard if you were not approaching purpose. So when pressure increases, press in harder. Pray with greater intensity. Declare God's promises with greater boldness. Refuse to surrender to fear. At the proper time, you will reap if you do not give up. And when the breakthrough comes, it can come suddenly. One moment it looks the same challenges, same delays, same unanswered questions, and then in an instant everything shifts. The opportunity appears, the healing manifests, the restoration begins, the provision arrives, the door opens. Just as Joseph went from prison to palace in a day, your situation can change in a moment. When it happens, give God the glory. Remember, it is He who gives the ability to produce and to prosper. Your breakthrough is not only a gift, it is a platform to display God's faithfulness. Your story will become a testimony that strengthens others still waiting. And know this, breakthrough is not the end, it is the beginning. When God opens the door, step through with boldness. Do not let fear keep you from the future He prepared. Continue seeking His guidance. Stay grounded in His word. The God who brought you to this moment will continue leading you into greater blessing and greater purpose. God is able to do immeasurably more than all you ask or imagine, according to His power at work within. Why? Oh, no matter how big your dreams feel, His plans are greater. No matter how impossible your situation appears, His power is stronger. No matter how long you have waited, His timing is still perfect. So hold on. Do not give up. Do not lose hope. Keep believing, keep expecting, keep declaring His promises, because at the appointed time, God will move, and your life will never be the same again. When that moment comes, you will look back and see that every delay, Every struggle and every stretch of waiting was shaping you for something greater than you could have imagined. As you stand on the threshold of what God is about to do, remember that your waiting has not been in vain. Every challenge, every closed door, and every unanswered prayer has been preparing you for this moment. God has been working in ways you could not track, aligning the right people, the right opportunities, and the right circumstances behind the scenes. Even when it felt like nothing was moving, He was moving. And now the season of breakthrough is at hand. Doors that seemed sealed can swing open without warning. Mountains that looked immovable can shift with one divine command. The blessings you have been praying for can appear in forms you never expected. But when it happens, do not forget who made it possible. Give God the glory for every victory and every answered prayer, because the story He is writing through your life is not just about your comfort. It is about His faithfulness being revealed. Your testimony will become a reminder to your own heart that God keeps His word, and it will also become a beacon of hope for others who are still in the waiting season, still praying through tears, still believing through silence. What God does in you will strengthen someone else. What God brings you through will become proof to others that He can bring them through too. So as you step into what He has prepared, continue to seek His guidance and trust His plan. The same God who has carried you this far will lead you into even greater purpose. Hold on just a little longer. Keep your faith strong, your prayers consistent, and your heart expectant. The God who parted the Red Sea, who raised Lazarus from the dead, and who turned water into wine, is the same God who is about to move in your life. And when He does, it will be more than you could have asked, imagined, or dreamed. Your life is about to change, because when God moves, everything shifts. So get ready, because your breakthrough is closer than you think, and your greatest days are still ahead.